On this episode of the Black Boss Ladies platform,
you hear people talk about six figures all the time.
Yes.
Six figures, to the point where you think everybody makes six figures.
Yes.
But when you get behind the numbers and you realize it's less than 10% of the country makes six figures.
That's one of the reasons why we started the show, right? So we can look past just trying to be famous, right? And what are Black women actually out here doing that you can be doing, right? Because a lot of times it's about exposure.
I went into straight public relations, and I was one of the only Black women in public relations at the time. And when you think about 20 years ago,
I was just about to say for NFL team.
Yes, for an NFL team. Now there's a whole different, they have a whole group, women in NFL, and there's women coaches. And I remember when they got the first PR director that was a woman. So it wasn't even just being a woman, but being a Black woman at that time was really rare. And then to be a part of the team and actually be a part of the Super Bowl team and get a ring and all these things.
CEO, I'm just listening to your story just from beginning to end, from Rams player to, man, I got a baby with a heart problem to, WIC. Yeah. It's hard to believe you could be a CEO when you stand in the line with WIC.
welcome to the Black Boss Ladies platform, the place where legacies live. Welcome to the Black Boss Ladies platform podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Lee.
And I'm Julia Myers.
I am happy to have Miranda Walker Jones here today. Her mother, Ann Walker, is a legend in East St. Louis. She is a historian. She is an actress. She's a community activist. And we just love her. So I talked to her one day and I was telling her about the show, and she was like, you need to have my daughter on this show. And I was like, we would love to have Miranda Walker Jones. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We can't wait to hear your story.
Yeah. Miranda is the CEO of the Little Bit Foundation. Yeah. It serves 50 schools in the area and over 15,000 students. Heavy load. So we got on the CEO today. So welcome.
We're excited to get into your story and how you got here. We always like to open up the show with this question, though. What is your definition of success?
That's always a good question.
Right.
Success is living out your purpose for me. And it doesn't mean that you've arrived, because it's always, to me, you've never arrived. It's always a journey. But you're successful when you know that I like what I'm doing. I like who I am. And that I know that, I have I'm flawed. I have a long way to go, but I'm enjoying the ride getting there.
Enjoying the ride. I love that. Because you're ever evolving.
Ever. Yes.
So before you can get to serving 15,000 students, where does Miranda story begin?
It was funny you opened up talking about my mom, Ann Walker. I mean, the story begins in East St. Louis. Really, it begins in Brooklyn, Illinois.
Brooklyn.
Yes.
I know Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, Illinois. And my father is from Eagle Park, Madison.
Oh, yep.
So, you have the tale of an Eagle Park and a Brooklynite coming together. And, both of them, when you talk about these little small towns that, they were like small town royalty. My grandfather owned his own dry cleaners. He was like the George Jefferson of his time, and had a nightclub, a very entrepreneur spirit. My father his father was working in the steel mill at the time. So, they very hardworking family, and here you go, the offspring of one and the offspring of the other, and then coming together. And when you have these small town values, and hardworking people, and then you have the baby boomer generation come together, and I'm that Generation X, that next level of coming into this baby boomer, and they were baby boomers are interesting.
They are.
And it was interesting. I talk a lot about generations and just different. The baby boomers at that time, they're different grandparents now, because they're still moving, still trying to shake. And so having mover and shaker parents. I was always kind of the person that was, you got to figure out a way, do it yourself. we talked about Gen Xers, and we said that we were the kids that they said, go on outside.
Right.
You want to light it's a water hole.
Like, what
in
did
the back.
you eat?
Right. We just did it. We figured out a way. We did it. We, and even today, that's what happens with a lot of Generation X leaders. Nobody was really checking for us. We were just kind of making it happen and getting it done. And now we've become that sandwich generation because now we're taking care of the baby boomers that don't want to be baby boomers. They don't. They think they still,
25.
They do. If you could tell my mama to stop cutting the grass right now, this moment. And then my father is really struggling with his mobility and him not being like, I was the guy in the Cadillac who drove around and did all the things. And so now you have, this Generation X who, I've arrived here today as a result of, everything that happened in my lifetime. Growing up in East St. Louis, I moved to Springfield for a little while, came back to East St. Louis, and it's the city of champions.
Yeah.
But in that you find a lot of tragedy and triumph.
You surely
we can go down a whole road when we talk about that because it's true. Like you mentioned about the small town values, because there is a lot. When people think small town, sometimes they think small mind, and that is not always the case. A lot of pride is often put into you in those spaces.
A lot of pride and resilience,
Yes.
Fortitude, all of the things that come along with the tragedy and triumph. That's why we are built differently. It's because we have been through so much. And, even today, as I sit here in the midst of you two, of this greatness, you're still dealing with the tragedy and the triumph as of right now, today.
And always working through that.
And I love the small town community feel. Like it is a community because they want to know when they meet you, what's your mom name?
What's your people? What's your last name? Who you are? They're trying to figure out who you come from and what's your, in a sense, like when you're younger and you in it, you don't think about it. And then I moved to a big city and nobody asked me my last name and who your people. That's what who your people.
So
that's what
the question on the Missouri side is where'd you go to high school?
Yes, it is.
So they categorize you by where you went to high school, which gives you all of your demographic background.
Right. They were associated with economic status.
Economic status. On the east side, it was who were your people.
Right.
I want to connect to your people and who you are. So I feel like it's a lot different. And my husband, who is from the St. Louis side, even we go to East St. Louis now or go to Fairview Heights or eat dinner over there, it feels different.
Yeah,
there's a different warmth. You can't go anywhere without knowing someone is saying how you got to stop and talk and how was this person and how's your grandma.
And when you're a kid, you ain't happy about that. You in the far away from your mama. She's supposed to go in there and get some girl. She's talking to 15 people. We supposed to.
And you don't have to tell. I didn't tell us don't touch nothing. You got to say don't stay all day. Right. I'm not gonna touch, but we gotta go.
No, I swear. And those are those.
Well, her mother really does know everybody. Yeah,
But you know what? Even going into a big city like me, because I think about those small town values, and you think about the things that who you are. Like right now, I went to a party Chicago is a really big city, right? I've been there 14 years. And the girl I'm with, she was like, everybody. I'm from here. I live here. I don't know nobody else. And I get that from my mom, which I want to go back. We introduced the show with your mom and that you had a great example. What did she instill into you, like having that example young? What did you take from that to start your journey?
She was really a single mom, and she took care of, my brother and I. We're a small, tight-knit family, and she always had a never, you can't say can't attitude. In fact, her and I just had this conversation the other day because she feels differently in what she instilled in me and what she instilled in my brother. For me, it was like, you can go, you can fly, you can do and be whoever you want to be. And but there was also the, I always look at the cycle of poverty too. And so even in that, I also have looked at her challenges and tried to break those cycles.
Okay.
So one of the things that I noted in my family is that nobody was married. Like there's, you have to, there's nobody after that my grandparents that were married, you know, and so watching this, like, what is going on with relationships? How are we, you know, relating to each other? That was a cycle that I was like, you know, that this cycle has to be broken.
Yes.
And just how we look at, you know, how we save our money, how we talk about money,
Yes.
you know, thinking about, you know, I want to leave a legacy for my kids. And my mom is really into legacy building. And this is funny because we're almost the opposite in a lot of ways.
Oh, really?
We're a lot opposite. So she's still trying to build this legacy, but she's building it for the community, but not for her necessarily for her family. And for me, I'm like, your family is your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be able to pour into that.
Legacy.
And I'm always thinking, you know, if I buy real estate here, what is that value going to be later?
Right.
And how do I pass this on so my kids are set up for success? And so we are now having these conversations, and that's not something that was poured into her necessarily.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, we're seeing now, it's funny because the baby boomers what is the generation above them? I can't remember. The silent generation, they call it. That is what they call it, the silent generation.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Oh, that was the
Yeah, it was a lot about that. The silent. So they did not talk to the kids.
Right. I was going to say that was the generation where you all heard, you all seen and I heard. Exactly.
100%.
Wow.
And so they didn't pour. And so, you know, you have these baby, and they had 2-parent homes.
Yeah, they did.
Very traditional. Mm-hmm. And the baby boomers like, we're free, we're loot. And then so now you have the Gen Xers that we're a lot more like, oh my gosh, we have so many responsibilities that I worry about what I'm doing to my kids.
Yeah.
Because now I'm spoiling them to death. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm like, no,
we need to take a little bit from over here was the great, a little bit from over here, and a little bit from over there.
They don't know how to do what we did when we were younger at all. See, but Julia's kind of at the
I'm in the middle, like how she said, we're the sandwich for.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's kind of like the older millennial / Gen. She's 10 years younger than me, but yeah. So it was kind of, she's on the border. But you're so right. Like our kids, they don't know how to get anywhere. They not without the GPS. It's like what's in the workroom.
And we didn't have GPS.
So smartphones have made us a lot longer.
We printed out MapQuest directions.
Yeah.
But I also still knew how to read a map. That's why I said we on the edge. I remember leaving the country and our phones weren't working and they had maps in the car. And I'm like, yo, I went to one of the best elementaries. I could read a map.
Like,
you know, and I broke it out and I knew how to get us around the island. So
let's talk about where you started. You went to UMSL.
I went to Mizzou.
You went to
I'm
Mizzou.
a tiger.
Okay.
Mizzou run. Yeah.
Okay. So what did you major in at Mizzou?
I was always a kid that didn't know exactly what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So I actually majored, I have an undergraduate degree in interdisciplinary studies.
Oh,
so it's English, Black studies, and psychology.
Okay.
And so what you do, it's real different.
No, my aunt is in those spaces too. That
they kind of made that up. So, they were like, we got to get you out of here. Let's find what you want to do. We got something.
You didn't take enough class.
Right. We're going to make up something. But you have to do a capstone at the end. And so my capstone was really mixing, you know, Black psychology, English psychology, and Black studies. And I did a capstone on Ebonics and language and linguistics.
I love Ebonics.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, because I just feel, you know, at one time when they first started talking about Ebonics and people were kind of like laughing about it.
Then it became a class.
But it is so real.
It's so
when
real.
Black people talk, our language is so multi-layered. Like Bernie Max.
Yes.
Look, did you talk about that in your capstone? Bernie Max, thing on the Kings of Comedy.
Yes.
Where he talked about the MF and how you use MF in so many different ways. Yes. In the Black community, and it means so many different things.
It does. And that's the same with Chinese language and a lot of other languages. With the exception of English. English is what you say is what it is for the most part. You can make a couple different words.
Right.
But in Chinese, ma, depending on how you say it, 5 different ways means 6 different things.
Yeah,
okay.
And so same thing for us. I mean, we have so many rich qualities as Black people.
Yeah.
We shake, we just
that's acknowledgement. Yeah, exactly.
That was really good. So, but we are also we got to speak, and there's so many like codes that we have, and that's all a part of our psychology, our psyche, and so bringing those things together. That's what it was. So even with that, I said I love football. Football is my thing, and so I started working in the athletic dining hall when I was at Mizzou.
Okay.
And so
Mizzou was a really big sport.
Really big sport.
If you guys are aware.
Yes, big time. So in that space as a female working, I ended up working my way up to being the dining hall. So at Mizzou, I was busy. I was the president of LBC, the Legion of Black Collegians, pledged to sorority, and working in the dining hall.
Look, don't skip over that.
Yeah,
you got AKA
and all the things. And that was not intentional, but it was like, so one of those things. And so they said, you should go on to do professional sports. And so I took an internship my senior year. I started interning with the St. Louis Rams.
Okay.
And I was still going to Mizzou. So I blew my car up driving back and forth. I had all my classes on Mondays.
Okay.
And I would work the rest of the week at, working for the team.
Oh, wow. So that's about a 2.5 hour drive.
2 hours, yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes,
that's wonderful to have that position at such a young age.
It was. And
what
it
were
was
you
a
doing
lot of fun.
for the Rams?
I did public and community relations. So that's where I started. So I would do the mixture of, I would be the one people would call to get their credentials for the team. So I would do that, but I would also do stats. I was a statistician for the team, and I would write some articles. We have our game day magazine. So each one of the PR professionals had to write an article on one of the players. I was, in charge of doing their bios. And
how did you land that job?
Yeah, working in the dining hall.
Working in the
dining hall. One of the players there was like, what do you do with, because they were like, what are you going to do with this degree? And I said, I don't know. He said, this why I don't know what that means. They're going to law school. I don't know. But they were like, you thought about public relations. That, and I was like, you know what, that probably is a great path for me because it blends all of these things. And so I went, and they said, hey, I know a person. Let's get you an internship with the Rams and, see how this goes. Okay. Made a call. They were like, yeah, come on in. And I started that internship. And it went from the intern to me. As soon as I graduated, I had a job. So I was, working for
that. That is amazing.
Really yeah, it was already done. And then I went from doing community and public relations. I teetered in both of the two departments because they were separate departments.
Okay.
And then I went into straight public relations. And I was one of the only Black women in public relations at the time. And when you think about 20 years ago.
I was just about to say for NFL team.
Yes, for an NFL team. Now there's a whole different, they have a whole group women in NFL. And there's women coaches. Yeah. And I remember when they got the first PR director that was a woman. So it wasn't even just being a woman, but being a Black woman at that time was really rare. And then to be a part of the team and actually be a part of the Super Bowl team and get a ring and all these things.
The ring. Got the ring.
I got to hide them rings. My neighborhood, no, I didn't get one. They skipped me.
We the bank staff.
Right.
We didn't get them.
So, but to have the ring, and I met my husband there because he was in the video department.
Okay.
And the Coach Martz, a lot of people don't know the story. Coach Martz, who was the head coach when I left the Rams, his secretary hooked us up. Said, I just love that Adam. You should try to go out with him. And I was like, oh. Okay. So we just started hanging out, and next thing you know, we married 23 years. It's crazy. Congratulations. That's where it started at the Rams.
So how long were you with the Rams? That just sounds like an amazing career, though, Cam.
It was. But they in the industry, the entertainment industry at the time, which is really what it is, they didn't pay you at all. So but they paid you in food and activities,
being able to get into some
free tickets. Yeah, and I tell these young people now, when I stared right out of college, we were making $25,000, and I was like,
working for an NFL team.
But now they fed us every meal. Yeah, you were traveling. They covered a lot of the job,
like the perks.
It was a lot of perks. A glamour feel is what they call it.
Okay.
But you work your way up and you get to where you need to go. But today, a lot of the staff that I have, they want to come out making six figures.
Oh, yeah. These young people, they have unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it we'll go back to that social media world too, because I see so many, even me, like we know life before social media and we know life now. You hear people talk about six figures all the time.
Yes.
Six figures. To the point where you think everybody makes six figures.
Yes.
But when you get behind the numbers and you realize well, it's less than 10% of the country makes six figures.
Yeah.
Right? So why do you think that you're supposed to come out
make it come out?
So,
six figures?
Well, two stories behind that. One, that's one of the reasons why we started this show, right? So we can look past just trying to be famous, right? And what are Black women actually out here doing that you can be doing, right? Because a lot of times it's about exposure. But another semi-funny story, but in some ways sad. My son told me $60,000 ain't no money.
He did. When you told me, he said that's it.
He told me, $6,000. He quit his job, and $60,000 wasn't.
Can I say $60,000 with no degree?
With no degree.
With no degree.
Yeah.
And to me, I think about my career, again, being in that generation. My first job with the government was $52,000. Okay, and we're not like. That went a long time ago.
She had a master's.
And I had a master's degree.
Yeah.
And I was excited for the $52,000. So when I hear kids,
like 25,
I just told my age, right?
When I hear kids in that generation say, with no education, that $60K is not enough money, I'm just like, wow. While in certain spaces, I understand that, right? When you work in sales, you can blow the cap off six figures if you're good.
Yes.
But if you're talking about walking into a door with very limited experience and you haven't got good, why do you think that that's not enough?
Yeah. And, I want them to have more confidence in themselves. Like, pay your dues and do good, and you will get it.
You will get it.
And I have so many people now that I've seen on my staff, and they'll stay here for a year. They may come in at our minimum, and the minimum now is like 37, 40,000. That's coming in the door. If you're a teacher, if you're working in a nonprofit, that's about where you're starting, which is, a pretty good starting. Because I look, 25,000. I was doing something.
Look, I did think I was doing something. I was like, I'm not even 25 yet, and I make 25,000.
And life wasn't as high either.
The cost of living is a lot different now, and I get that. And we want people to live comfortable and to have all the things that they want in life, that they deserve in life.
I agree. I'm not saying
I want you to have it, but pay some dues. You
gotta not only pay the dues, but you also gotta get good.
That's the part.
Right. People don't think that they have to get good.
Run that back and say it.
Right. Because all of them believe that they're already good.
Yes.
That's like with no experience.
You
just good.
And it pains me when you see someone with the potential and they're like, you're right there at the cusp, and then they flip jobs because they see the money. And I'm like, you left a job for $3,000 more when if you had stayed, your trajectory is, you may have started at 40,000 now, but I'll tell you in 3 years, you'll be at about 55 and 65. You'll be, because I see your potential. They don't believe it.
They don't believe it. Because it's that instant gratification.
They don't believe it.
Which I said, when I go back to social media, you think everybody is making six figures already.
Yeah.
So something you're doing has to be wrong. But I love the stats that, no, everybody is not making six figures out the gate. So you're at the Rams.
I'm at the Rams.
You're doing great. You even meet your husband there.
Me, my husband.
That you didn't want to be there.
And I was that kid that saw some money. I saw the money.
You saw the money. Where you go?
I saw the money. So I was making my 25, got to 27, and then somebody offered me a job at 45.
Okay, that's a big job.
That is a big job.
I did not have the job.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm saying figures because I do want people to understand that trajectory.
No, share figures.
And so we it was with the organization called St. Louis 2004.
Okay.
So it was really diving into public relations, but the organization was created to bring the glory back to the St. Louis region as a commemoration for the 1904 World's Fair.
Okay,
so 2004, by 2004, we were working on several different initiatives, Safe Streets, Parks and Rec, downtown improvement. There are so many different things. And as a public relations person, it was my job to kind of pluck out all the great things in the region, very similar to some of the organizations now, the Greater St. Louis Inc. and different. And, a lot of things spawned out of that St. Louis 2004 movement. So I got into that, and I was there and going from the Rams to St. Louis 2004 was like two different worlds.
Yeah, because you got a lot of resources at the Rams, right?
A lot of resources. It was fun. You're moving, you're with people.
Yeah.
This job, it was like you're selling, you know, and in the PR and sports, this is what happened. You know,
this is
what, you know, this is.
Over here, you finna make up some stuff.
I had to like get pulling out.
I already know.
Nobody wants to cover. Nobody cares, you know, because if something's burning over here, they're going to get the story.
Mm-hmm.
If something over here, hey, we just cut a ribbon on a new ice cream parlor downtown St. Louis,
Right.
you might get it. If it's a good day and they don't have any other stories that trump yours.
Right.
And so like these stories, and especially good news stories and trying to, you know, really sell this region, it always would get trumped by the next fire or whatever.
She was just talking about that.
Negativity sells.
Negativity sells.
Yeah.
Sports had a segment.
So
I didn't have to sell that.
Right.
Because their audience is already created.
It's already
and they're going to be
created.
there and they're going to have this. But you over here trying to sell good when bad trumps you.
Yes. And so I was like, "Ooh, this is a different kind of PR here." And then having to deal with the politics of it. Because for me, I felt like, okay, we're talking about all these things happening, but what are we doing to help them happen? I was more, I learned then I was a grassroots person. I was a feet on the ground person. I didn't want to just talk about what was happening.
Yeah.
And especially if you're talking about, I'm like, we're talking about it, but it's really not making the impact that we're selling.
And then sometimes you're putting a Band-Aid over it to make it look like you're really selling.
Yes.
I worked in nonprofit in some spaces where I sat back and I said, oh, wait a minute, this is all part of the plan.
Yeah.
Like everybody's in this mess and we just making it look like something that it really ain't.
So the rubber hit the road. We're talking about one of the projects called Ceasefire.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, this is over 20 years ago. We still having the same conversation
We
right now.
are.
Right.
I just went to some whole program in the park, and they were getting ready to have a Stop the Violence parade.
Same conversation.
Yeah.
So my job was, we had this beautiful campaign. Ceasefire is beautiful. But I was like, hey, we're selling this, but what are we doing to actually help stop the gunfire?
Mm-hmm.
I felt bad promoting the image and the ceasefire and all this front end.
Mm-hmm.
But there was, I just felt like it wasn't
ain't nothing happening in the
connected.
back.
What was really happening in the hood, because I'm still in the hood at this point. So
because
I'm
we're still living in those.
yes, it's not translating people. And so I said at a meeting, like, okay, this is great. The campaign looks good. We've done our job here selling it, but what are we really doing about it? And, you know, in real time. And I was telling you, you need to stay in your place.
Oh, wow.
I was like,
And I know you didn't go for that.
This is not my place. This is not my place. That's what I knew.
I want to say something before we move forward, because as you're talking about this whole time, I'm smiling because you talked a lot about your mom being different. But this job sounds a lot like what your mother was doing for free in East St. Louis.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of promoting the city, talking about the history, you know, bringing forth the good things in the city. So in this way, this job kind of parallel what she was doing in East St. Louis.
Yes. And I see a lot, you know, my mom, I say we're opposites. We've done a lot of the same things. She did PR. I did PR.
Okay.
You know, her love for the arts and her love for children. After school, I did very similar things. So our approach was a lot different.
Yeah, you guys were seeing the same picture from different angles.
Yeah. And then her ability to trust people and understand, and being, you know, we're talking about the boss lady network, right? Boss lady, you know, what does it mean to be a boss, you know, and that means bringing other people along with you. And I think her trust level, because you said free was the magic word.
Right.
She did a lot for free. And she was a visionary, and she would see something and say, hey, this is what we should do. And it would take people a long time to gravitate toward that idea. And they would gravitate toward the idea that somebody else had. And she's like, well, they stole my idea. And she got caught up in that a lot, but she couldn't figure out how to take her vision and bring people along with that vision. And so for me, watching that, I'm like, okay, not only are you going to have the vision, but then you have to have the steps in order to be able to have buy-in from other people that can help you to bring this vision to life. So I think that's where we kind of, you know, argue.
I was going to say, and you're just the evolution of her.
Yeah.
Because she had that part, and now you saw the holes in what was missing. So I'm going to take the great parts for you, and I'm going to fill the holes in. And I'm going to do even, and that's what we're supposed to do when you're building legacy, is to create those steps. Right?
Exactly.
Because your children are going to see the great things their grandmother did, the things you're doing, and then they'll fill those holes in what you guys created.
Yes.
And that's how you do it.
Let's hope, right? They fill the hole.
Let's hope.
And they not because, and I tell them I'm still in the
still
process, and I'm still working. I'm not where I want us to be. I want our family to be.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm trying to get there, and hopefully they see in that struggle that they have to continue to struggle.
Right. So you're at this organization. The pay almost doubled, but the stress did too.
Yeah.
How long did you stay there?
9 months. I had the baby.
And I was
like, oh, let me get out of here. And I told this story to some staff people the other day. That I had a boss that was not, very nurturing as a boss, and she was never taught to be. She came from a different corporate structure. And when she asked me to write this essay on what's going to make me happy here, because at that point, when I was told to stay in my place, that was it for me. Something, so stay in your place, write the essay, and, come back. Have you finished your essay? I was working on my essay. My essay was the resignation. That's what the essay was. I had to find me a little job while I was working on my head.
But you see that?
I was like, it's coming. Don't worry. I'm working on this essay.
It's almost
I'm
coming.
working real hard.
It's crazy.
And I let her know in the essay, thank you for posing that question. What would make me happy here? And I realized not much.
Not much.
Because, the stay in your place and the culture and all these things, I need to be on the ground. And, I appreciate the mission of that organization. I appreciate what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
And even the spirit, there's a lot of great people. Oh my gosh, some wonderful people that worked in that organization. Rudy Nickens and some other Shaughnessy Daniels that are still movers and shakers in this community. But that wasn't the place for me at that point with the energy that I had. So from there, I ended up working with a few football players and helping them establish their foundations and running their foundations. Okay. So I did that for a while until I got pregnant, got married during this time. And, we were all in a state of, and my husband's. Yeah, and my husband, he's going through transition.
Is he? I was gonna say,
so he was at the Rams. He left the Rams.
Okay.
Decided to go back to school for IT, but he's in school now. So then he ended up working as security guard at his old high school, which is crazy. So we had this transition time where both of us were like, "What's happening?
Figuring it out,
trying to figure it out."
And you're pretty young at this point.
We were pretty young at this point, mid-20s. Yeah, so we were trying to figure out, and I have my first child. And she ends up being born with a birth defect, a heart condition. This is where the story really gets interesting for me, because now I'm like, everything stops. Career, everything stops. It's about this child and what I need to do to be a mom.
Right.
And I think I have a little bit of a type A personality, and I want to be in control. And this is when I was completely not in control.
You're not. Only person in control at that point is God.
Right.
Everything's out of your hands.
Everything. So as I'm laying on the table and they're like, we have to do a C-section because her heart rate won't stabilize. She had a heart defect. And they were like, are you ready? I was like, I don't have a choice to be. At this point, I knew I was just a vessel that was made to deliver this child into the world. And that whatever was meant to be at this point, God had to do. That was when I knew I was out of control. Yeah. And had her, and, she's 21 now. And it's doing all the things. But, my focus then became, there is mom comes first.
Yeah, right.
Making sure the babies are healthy. And so it was a right time for me not to be in a job that I had to go to 9 to 5, to get her through those early years. She had several heart surgeries and all these things, so that her first 16 months of her life was really me doing a lot of background work, doing everything I could, running foundations, writing grants for people.
You was out in the wilderness.
But really being mom for that time.
Right.
And so Adam was, and he's out here. And he said, I got to be a security guard because they had good insurance in the school district.
Yep.
And he had to make sure that we were insured. So we had to do what we had to do.
And that is so
you saw me repeat that.
Repeat that to that
do what you have to do.
You got to
right. And I think that is what this generation doesn't understand. And maybe they can teach us something about not always doing what you got to do. I don't know.
It can
Maybe
be like
it's gonna
balance.
work out.
Yeah.
But I always feel like that. Like that is what has propelled me forward. You just dig in.
You got
And
to.
do
I
it.
remember working at the salon in Chicago when I got there. At this time, a salon, I got a master's degree, right?
Mhm.
But I was unemployed, and my friends say, "Babe, come down and get this reception job." I was the best reception they had, and I was there 6 days a week, and they was giving me all the shifts until I could find something else. Ain't no no shame in my game.
As crazy as their time was, and as broke as we were, I said, we got to, they were like, you qualify for WIC, you should. You have a child that's, has some health conditions. You're not really working. Your husband's working at a, just a regular job.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to go apply for WIC. We made like $50 too much.
And they ain't going to give it to you.
You know what? No, I had a
hate
blessing.
those things.
I had a blessing.
Okay.
That person said, you know what, I'm going to work with you.
Yeah, because
I'm
$50.
It was $50.
But it do be like that. They'll cut you off for $2.
They would cut you off for $2, but that $50, she said, with your baby's health condition and all the bills, I know you guys.
You gotta be able.
Let me see what we can do here.
Yeah.
And she came back and I qualified for WIC.
Okay.
And that was, again, a real humbling experience.
Yeah.
Because if anybody knows, mom with a WIC check, and the check you get, all the little things you get, and you have to stand in line.
Yeah.
And even now today, I have to catch myself because you get behind a mom with the WIC check, it's gonna wait. You're gonna wait forever.
Yeah.
Because they gonna
because they gotta do all that. It's like at some point in time, you would think that they need to computerize it. Get a WIC credit. Do something.
And it was humbling, a little embarrassing because the people behind you have to wait. You're getting the Rice Krispies and the things, you got to look for the little WIC label. So I learned then. I was like, wow, this is.
And then you take it from another perspective because it's all about perspective. There are countries where if you ain't got no money, you ain't got no money.
You don't have nothing to eat. If you don't have the money to pay.
Hey, I was grateful for the WIC because formula was high.
And formula. Let me tell you, that's one of the best things I did was breastfeeding.
And I breastfed till that girl was 14 months. And I only had about a couple cans.
Yeah. We had WIC when we were young because we had we both went to the military first. And then we came out of the military. We were high school sweethearts. And then when we came out of the military, both of us went to college. And we had our son while we were in college. And we ended up with WIC as well. And when I tell you, that doggone formula. Okay, I couldn't even do breastfeeding because I was still in college. I was just working. It was just, and one time, my now husband, my then boyfriend, he somehow threw away the doggone WIC things for the formula girl. But I tell you, this is kind of. Look, in some ways, it's funny, but it seems a little sad. You're triggered right now. I can see
looking for it. I remember some milk going bad on me, so I already know.
We were in the trash can trying to find. We never found it. But yes, that was a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
You're trying to make it.
Yeah. So, having the understanding of what a mom goes through in those circumstances. And for me, I breastfed almost exclusively because I was like, oh, this is much more economical. And I knew what she needed from me.
Yeah.
Because of her health.
I had mine in the middle of the formula crisis. So there was no option. There was no other option, really.
And the hospital was like, well, she has to be able to drink some formula because she spends too much time in the hospital. Yeah. And so, I fought the hospital tooth and nail on formula use. So after her first surgery, they wanted to put a feeding tube in her nose. I was like, she's a breastfed baby. We got to figure out how to get her this breast.
Yeah.
Sorry, viewers out there. I'm keeping it very real.
No, this is
so, I would not consent to that. And I said, we're gonna figure this out. And I moved this. They somehow moved her bed all the way around, and I was in a real awkward position. And we got her in, latched her on. That heart rate stabilized. You can see that she needed the touch. She needed the milk. All of those things. They ended up doing a study on that because I fought them tooth and nail on. I know what my child needs.
Yeah, because don't they have studies that say that your body can actually create what your child needs
and what's missing?
Absolutely.
Like if you got sick while you're breastfeeding, your body will adjust and give them things that they
Like
antibodies.
antibodies. Yeah, it's a very
It's
interesting.
powerful. And
It's
now
very
you can see
powerful.
how far it's moved in the last couple years.
Yeah.
So, my mom breastfed when it was really, when it was really unpopular.
Right.
So carrying that legacy again.
Yep.
So we fast forward, we're WIC, all the things are happening, the baby. And I said, okay, she's a little older now. I found a sitter that I trusted that was staying home. And I went to about 29 daycare centers. I went to everywhere. I go, oh no, Ronnie knows. No, I don't like the food.
Oh, girl.
No, oh
my God.
This was not it.
Yeah.
And I found a person, and she was like, I will keep your baby. And she knew all the things to look for in terms of her being a heart baby. And I said, it's time to go back to work. And so I went back to work, and I started working at Better Family Life.
Okay.
So I was in
You
Better
spent
Family
like
Life.
17 years there.
17 years
That's
at
a
Better Family
long
Life.
time.
Yeah. So I did two things that time. I ran for school board
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, by the time my child gets into preschool, I want to make sure we have preschool in the school district.
Wait a minute. You did not think that for, you thought that
Yes,
for
I was like, I want to do it. I have to do this. So she was about 14 months, and I was like, this will be perfect.
And
And
you don't even have many kids in school.
I didn't have any kids in school yet, but I was like, I know we're going to need pre-K because I saw the condition of what was happening. And then I started Better Family Life, which my mom worked at Better Family Life again, following the footsteps.
Okay.
Took on the job as the director of youth programs
Okay.
for Better Family Life. So this is, kind of where I got back into the workforce. And now Amore, my daughter, is now with a good sitter, and I'm doing the school board. So that was my first time I ran for political office when she was a baby. And
you
won the
jumped
school
right.
board.
You went right.
Oh, yeah, she went in
Right
for
in.
it.
Of course. Right.
Right in. So, I'll say school board taught me a lot, being on the school district in Jennings. I learned a lot, saw, several different superintendents. And even today, 20 years now, I'm school president.
You're the
now.
president. Yeah.
And our pre-K, I have a superintendent that's all about pre-K.
Okay.
And my daughter is an early childhood major. So something about where I was at that moment.
Okay.
And we have, one of the largest pre-K programs now in our school district. But
That early education is real, though.
It is real.
It's
For
so
every dollar
real.
you spend, $17 comes back into your community on early childhood.
Really? Okay.
We're not investing our money in the right places.
Okay.
But that's a whole nother conversation.
That's important.
Another
It
conversation.
is. It is.
So that school district takes its own turn. I love, Jennings, what I've been able to do for the community. And then I go into Better Family Life. We start, working on programs there, which you are now being able to blend the community, the culture, working with Malik and Deborah.
Yeah, I know, because they're big in the East St. Louis community too. So I can see that connection between Ann and them and you coming in. But Better Family Life at that time, like now, people in St. Louis, you look at Better Family Life and it is big. But 17 years ago, it was not the Better Family Life that we know today. So you were instrumental in helping to build that?
Absolutely. My department, when I walked in, we had like one grant, maybe two grants. And they kept Curly Seward, who was the CEO at the Childcare Center. Are we ready to move forward? Like, no, we don't have a fax machine that can fax straight. What are we talking about? What are we doing?
Wait a minute, so just go back to when you said I'm a grassroots person. God said, okay, I'm gonna put you in a grassroots position. So we don't even have a fax machine.
Yes, then we get a fax machine, and we talk about a fax machine too. So I'm dating myself again. And so we started working on this, and by the time I left, it went from like, a department that had about $400,000 to about $4 million. So I went from 8 employees when I started. When I left, it was 48 employees. That's just that department.
Yeah.
And so, my evolution there, I went from being a director to what we call the division manager, ended up becoming the vice president. And then when I left Better Family Life, I left as the chief operations officer.
So I hear you said from 400,000 to 4 million.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot happening in this space in nonprofit. You're growing as an organization. I'm sure you're growing as a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about, because sometimes, again, people are ready to jump, right? Some people would have came in like, this is only $400,000. I'm going to go over with these people right here. But why do you stay, and what happens from there to there?
Yeah. So, Better Family Life, again, that organization is so special because it's an organization where you can be yourself, right? Because it's the corporate and the culture. You can be unapologetically Black.
Definitely.
When Obama won, we went all doing all the things. And when Trump won, you can't do that in a lot of other places.
No, you cannot.
Where you could really just be who you are. And that comes with, a little bit of, because then we can be who we are too much. And not have the professionalism that you need. And so being able to grow myself professionally, I was tapped by the CEO at the time as a part of his succession plan.
Okay.
Because I did understand the difference in, the cross section between professionalism and also what we need for our people and the cultural part of what Better Family Life is supposed to do. Also, you talk about families, right? Like better family life.
Yes.
And I was, just such a proponent of being a mom first and taking care of our children and being a family. So he was like, yeah, you have all the elements to be the, one of the next leaders of this organization. So while I was there, I did do a lot of professional development. I went to WashU to their CEO, inside the CEO class, was doing that. He was actually helping me to groom me into being, the next leader of Better Family Life.
I like that you say you went there because I believe even when you're working in organizations and you're building things, you have to own your genius.
Yeah.
Like you can't look for them to make you better. You have to look for their institution to create spaces for you to grow and be better. And sometimes you got to go outside the organization to get that.
You do. And there's so many things St. Louis offers. Focus St. Louis, back then it was Coral Women in Leadership. I was in one of their groups. And then they actually went into now they're focused St. Louis, so they have all these emerging leader programs and the CEO programs at WashU. So you build all of these things up. And then it's the real life experience of having to write the grants and get the grants and not get the grants, right? And losing the grants and managing the staff and, learning how to manage your own emotions while you're managing your staff.
That part right there.
And, having kids and all of the things that you have to do. And at the same time, my husband's on his track because he went from IT school and now being an IT director for a school district. So we both,
y'all both growing though. We're growing like black magic right here.
So, but, just to fast forward, I learned a lot there. That was, where I really cut a lot of my nonprofit teeth. But then the politics of being a Black woman sometimes in St. Louis in a nonprofit space, was really difficult to break that next glass ceiling of becoming the CEO of an organization that people looked at as very, very, a very masculine organization, which the CEO at the time said, no, Better Family Life is suited for a woman. Because a woman is a leader. But because of the spaces we were in crime and violence prevention and some of those other things.
Because sometimes it's not in the more...
Yeah, they didn't see it as, so there was always this kind of pull and push between a young woman, who should be in this seat, and you look at St. Louis, you look at NAACP, you look at Urban League, you look at these organizations. That was one that seemingly needed to have a male figure.
And because they start the father support program and everything.
Father Support Center. The Father Support Center is actually led by a woman now, which is
okay. Oh, wow.
Right. Sherry is doing that now. It's fathers and family support center. But we were partners. All of us were partners in growing at the same time. But again, it's one of those situations where I was, there were some forces that were working against having either me or a female in that position.
Okay. So it got to be hard to make that decision. Because you've been here 17 years. You came in, you 400, we have 4 million. I'd be like, I helped build this
and
house.
She was tapped to be on the track to that.
Yep. So what's that conversation to say, yeah, but you got to go?
Yeah, I started understanding, how much am I really growing? What is my worth and my value? I had to have those real conversations, and you start to understand that this relationship has become almost an abusive relationship.
Because I don't want you to skim past that, because we're going to have some viewers listening here. And I know people are at different points of their career, and I do run across women that have made it very high in certain spaces, and it becomes abusive, but they don't leave. I had to understand they had me because they had my spirit. They had my whole entire soul. I breathed, sweat, cried, BFL.
My kids grew up in BFL. They get picked up from school and brought to the after school program. And now everything in my life was so wrapped up in this organization and that this was my future. And to make that decision to say, wait a minute now, everything is tied into this organization. And for you to give as much as you're giving and have done as much as you have done, for them not to, this should not have been a hard decision for them to make. It should not have been. And you know, in the interviews, if you look at the paper, I made all of the cuts. It was not what I was doing. It was not that I couldn't, you know, and one person, we want the next Jeffrey Canada of St. Louis. We want somebody who can raise money like him. And I was like, how do you know I'm not that person? Did you not see what I do? You know, so I just started to say, you know what? I was in that process of what's next. You know, they gave me the COO position, which is right under. So now I could do all the work and just be the COO. Not have a title. I had a title. And I was like, okay, this is about to get worse than better. Yeah. And so Corey Bush, at the time, she, you know, there's a lot of ties to Better Family Life because her father worked there. Her kids were in my program. And she was like, look, I know she just won at the time. I know you're not going to leave Better Family Life. I know. But I have to ask anyway, because I would love for you to come and help me, you know, get my congressional office up and going and to be a part of my team. And I was like, whoa, you know, it's politics. And I do love politics and all the things, but do I really want to work in it?
I was just saying, I like to play and then go home.
And so I had some conversation with the family and everybody. And I said, you know what? This is the off-ramp. This may be the time because I'm still giving back to the community. You know, I want to support her and her leadership and her road. And I took that off-ramp. And so I became the district leader for her first congressional district. So I was the district director for her first year. And so I was excited. You know, it was during COVID. So all these things are happening. Like when I got the job and made my announcement, I actually had COVID at the time, was on lockdown. The calls and I couldn't go out. It was crazy. And so we get to that. And then, you know, the first year, my first day on the job is we had to work for free for the first month. Transition teams work for free.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Work for free for the first month. We get to the inauguration is our first day. So our inauguration was January 4th. I was in DC January 4th for inauguration. Our first day of work, January 5th. People say, you need to go home. Something's about to happen. I was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and fly back now. It's Monday. I'll get started back at the office. Got back the night of January 5th. On January 6th, y'all saw what happened.
Oh, wow.
And I was there the day before when they boarded up the Starbucks. They knew something was happening.
They did.
The FBI and everybody already knew that these groups were there.
I still work in the space, so I won't. But I will be considered my day job a essential worker in that space. A lot of things have always been known before there's public knowledge.
Absolutely. So, they were in the hotel taking stuff off of the shelves. And I was like, what are y'all doing? The Proud Boys coming. And I was like, what? They know. And so it was hard for me to reconcile. When I got back the next day, my phone was blowing up. Are you okay? Because people knew I was in DC. They didn't know I had gotten back that night. And so it was, you know, watching that and then working in a congressional office was one of the most, at that time, you know, you have progressive, which can be very polarizing. You had the very opposite end of the spectrum. And so the calls that we got, you know, I can't wait to throw gasoline on her monkey, blah, 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 all the things. It was an assault on your whole spirit, the things that we had to take as a congressional office. And, you know, for me, then having to have a team here on the ground, it was different because you had the DC team, you had the St. Louis team. And I'm like, you know, we are not in the federal building. We are in Missouri.
Right.
We are behind enemy lines.
Missouri.
Right. You're in DC with security doing all the things. And so I started advocating for my team. Like, we need more security here. We're the ones here every day. And it just, you know, while I was really excited about her leadership and her being the first Black woman to be in that seat, the reality of what we were going through day to day to day was real. And me having children that I wanted to make sure I protected. That was what made me say, "Oh, I don't know." And it was the work was hard because it was just every day there was something different that we had to go through, and it was COVID, and we were trying to convince people to get a COVID shot, and all the things. And
so I'm not from Missouri. I'm gonna have to be honest with you. I thought you were talking about COVID. But what to bring out?
He's talking about January 6th when Trump people stormed the Capitol. Yeah.
Okay.
So a little context, Cori Bush was an activist here in Missouri, and she won over Lacey Clay, who had been in office for a long time. She won. Years. She came in as a progressive candidate. She was working with people like AOC to just try to change the tide of the country, right? They were like activist congressional women. And Missouri is very conservative.
Very.
Highly racist.
I was just actually telling my husband that on the way here. Yeah. Because he's not from this area. And I was giving him some background, like,
so she and people working in her office were seeing that they were targets of a lot of racism, racist acts. She had to get personal security for herself to protect herself. So we don't. A lot of times we don't understand, like the people who are working for us and advocating for us can be targets.
It was exhausting work, and I ended up getting COVID twice during that time. And the last time, I didn't realize all the what do you call them? The indications on your phones and all of the alarms that I had set until I started turning them off because I was sick. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I realized that every time I got another notification, my heart rate would go up.
I was just about to say, like, you starting to internalize this stuff.
It was rough. And I said, this is not quite right. And at the time, Cori and I had some conversations, and I knew, I was like, I'm not sure this is the right place for me. And she could tell I wasn't happy. When I'm not happy,
everybody knows, right?
I'm not happy because I'm just giving energy. When I stop giving it,
No, yeah.
And so at that point, this job, the Little Bit Foundation, opened up. And people were like, you should apply for that job. That sounds like you. It mixes all of your best qualities. You love children. You love to, make sure kids have what they need. You have the lived experience of being a mom that had needs.
You should just say, I like the fact that you know yourself well enough to know when the chapter is over.
Yeah.
And as a professional, sometimes that is what people struggle with. They stay too long.
Yeah. And that one, if I had stayed longer, I would have, gotten tied up into a lot more things. At that point, when I left, and I left even before I got the job because I knew that it was, there was this, it was time.
Yeah, that's very toxic.
It was time on both sides. It was time on both sides. Yeah. So leaving that, and I was kind of out there for a month, like, wow, I haven't seen the sun in a long time, and I took some time to try to figure out life, and then I got the job at the Little Bit Foundation, and the rest, I'm living that chapter now, and it has been a chapter. Let me tell you, it has not been a dull day. But I was on a honeymoon for the first 6 months because now I'm living a job where I'm helping kids, helping the community, working with schools, all the things. I did have a founder who had been there for 20 years, and it went from a white female founder to its first Black CEO.
So that was president and CEO.
Yeah, it was not without those challenges because even the Little Bit has, from day one, has been an amazing organization, but just, the way that it cared for the clientele that it served, understanding who our children are and having the lived experience, there was a disconnect.
Because what is your mission?
Our mission is to make sure kids overcome the barriers to education. So that means make sure they have coats, shoes, hats.
This is you though, because you've been working on Jennings, the school district like that. This is position.
It was so me, and so. But again, having the lived experience gives a whole new feeling to Little Bit. And so, that was a hard transition. And I understand Rose, the person who founded it, this is her baby.
Right.
She started this thing with a coat drive, and I just want to help people and giving coats. And now I'm out here. We got to do mentoring programs and transferable skills. Let's get Candace Cox in here to talk about trauma. And we're doing video, podcasts with kids and all these different things. And it was time for a little bit to go into a little bit 2.0.
Yeah.
So that we could take this foundation and do a lot of different things with it.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited. And then we have a flood. In
Yes, a massive
July
flood.
of 2022, it lost the whole building. So now I'm like, I got this great CEO job. We don't have a pencil or a piece of paper. We lost everything.
Wow.
I can't. And so,
how do you, because now you're in the space, you have the title that had been kept from you. They gave you the title right into it, but you were still doing the work. So you get here to the organization that they believe in you. You see the work that needs to be done. You're ready to hit the floor. And like you said, the pencil, you don't have a pencil.
I don't have a pencil.
Because of a flooding.
Yeah.
What's your thought process with that?
Ooh, I was like,
God, is this really you? Because, you know, as soon as we get what we ask for and the problem come, we start questioning, I thought this was for me, but I don't know if it's for me.
you know what? Some flood, but people sometimes don't realize the flood is renewal and rebirth.
Okay.
And so I had to find, because I love the location, I love the building, it just got remodeled, it's beautiful. But there are spirits that live there. And there was a rebirth and a renewal that had to take place. And the only way I could reconcile myself was, okay, you wanted to wipe this thing completely clean.
You did.
And start over.
It was
Okay.
like God and Noah and the ark.
That's what we're doing. Okay. So, you know, I had to get the team together to say, okay, y'all, we are homeless right now. And guess what? The children we serve, a lot of them, we have to model the resilience that they have on a daily basis in this business, because we are all here. We are safe, alive. We have resources that'll get us back on track. We just now have to do it. And so now the organization has to now be a model of resilience.
And it's a way of them trusting you.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yeah.
just got the rug swept from under them. They have a new CEO. It's time for you to kind of put your big girl.
Yes.
Show them,
it is.
I am the leader. This is how you're going to trust me. And I'm going to get us back to where we
And that's where we are. So we went from the flood. We were in a temporary location. We found a temporary location for about 3 months. We were homeless. People working at home, which, you know, we were prepared for that because of COVID. We knew how to do it. So we got that. So we worked from home. We got someone donated some office space to us for us to get started. So we are in the process now. We've been in our temporary location now for 2 years.
Okay.
We found a building, bought it. We are doing a renovation on that building right now. It's going to be beautiful. It should be done in November.
Okay.
So you guys have to come out and see it. It'll
Yeah.
be done in November, and it's going to be beautiful. It's in the Maryland Heights area.
Okay.
So we are on the track to moving into the new building. We have our new strategic plan. I have my board is becoming a lot more diverse and really like taking on reins. So we didn't stop the growth. You know, we didn't stop because it was the people that were driving the organization, not the
building.
Right, not the building. And so the people are amazing. The team I work with, amazing group of people that really care about the mission. The board, very hardworking board. Have a young professional board. So being able to have a true team, I just feel so blessed to be able to lead this organization. And again, it hasn't been easy. It has not been easy.
I don't think any leadership role in any organization, the moment you step into leadership, you have to do the job, and then you have to motivate and move people to do the job.
Yes.
Which is people think you just make people do something. People only do what they want to do.
Right.
And as a leader, you got to motivate them to buy into the vision and then do the work.
Yeah, they would talk about Malik, who was my former CEO at BFL, would talk about being an alchemist. You know, where you take things and you mix metals. And there was this game back in the day called alchemy where you mix bird and flu. Now you got bird flu. It's all about being in a laboratory, right? And being able to, you know, try things, mixing different teams. Well, you know, your strength is this and this person. How do we get you guys together so we can make an even stronger team? Right. And seeing yourself, there's a science of leadership. And there's, you know, the alchemy of bringing these things together and mixing them and creating something new out of these two different precious metals. And so, you know, having that kind of backdrop in this leadership position, you know, sometimes I have to sit back and say, okay, what metals am I not mixing? You know, what in this laboratory needs to happen so that we can come out with the most optimal, you know, solution to the issues that we have in our community. So I look at it that way a lot of times. And again, even in the midst, and I'm going to say, professionally, it's not been easy, but I'm excited and I'm, pushing forward. The organization is doing some amazing things and it's going to continue growing with a lot of help from a lot of people. So I'm really blessed. But then I still have the Miranda behind the stuff, right? What is happening to me?
Yes.
Behind the scenes. And I'm tired. I'm at that point now where I've gone really hard for 2 years. And so I now have to find some space for me and really practice the self-care.
Got you.
In the face of trauma, I lost my brother this summer, which was my only, this is the full circle, because we talked about my mom being a single mom and raising the two of us. So now I'm trying to find,
that's a whole new normal for you guys.
What is happening here? This just happened a couple months ago, and just try to figure out, how do I take care of my mom in this space while still doing all the things that I need to get to the finish line of this project.
Yes.
That at little bit, not just that project, but just keeping this organization growing and afloat. So, coming here today, I'm gonna tell you, it was
well, we appreciate it.
I was like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
And sometimes that be a lot of our leaders, because we interview boss ladies.
Yeah.
And boss ladies, I'm always very, very cognitive of what I may be like, I just need an hour. That hour for you is so with like you could be doing, because I know I could be doing 1,001 things. I got to move these boats, I move the ship. So we're always very appreciative.
But being a boss lady, if you're going to be a boss, then you have to boss up, right? Do what you have to do. And for me, because I hate when people say, call me boss, they do it on purpose because they know I can't stand it. I'd rather be they like, come on, boss lady. But, it's really being able to pour into other people.
Never forget to pour into yourself.
Yeah, I know I'm trying. I'm going to pour some water. But being on your platform and being able to tell the story, because we don't tell our story enough. We don't talk about what happened to get where we are. So having this platform, I want to thank you both, for having me here and for giving me the opportunity through your vessel to pour into other people. And hopefully somebody out there who's watching it will say, man, she went through a lot, but she's still standing.
Yes.
And she's still like, I know that there's so many more great days ahead than those other days that were behind. I'm excited to be supported by a family and to have a family to support, right? That my mom is still here, and even with her cutting grass and all the things, I'm like, somebody get my mama ride lawnmower going to the bank. She was gonna go to the bank. She was gonna make a way. And with Dad doing what he does, and my husband Adam, who's trying to be figure out, how do I support this? How do I support this? Because it's not easy to be my husband.
That part.
A person that's moving and shaking and making sure my kids are whole. But again, being here, giving me, sometimes God says you need to go here because you need to talk to some boss ladies to make you talk about your story, to remind you
why you're on the journey.
Remind you why, you may have some self-doubt, but he always finds a way to put you in the right place at the right time. That's why I tell you, how do you do all these things and say, because God's going to put me where I need to be when I need to be there.
That's the level of faith. You got to have it.
This is where I need to be today with you right here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. CEO, I'm just listening to your story, just from beginning to end, from Rams player to, man, I got a baby with a heart problem, to, WIC.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe you could be a CEO when you standing in the line with a WIC. Because sometimes we think that our season is our forever. But no matter where you are, it's part of the process. Because now the families you serve, that space intimately. And you can tell them, you may be on WIC today, but you could be the CEO of an organization.
Take the tragedy and turn it into the triumph. It's the test.
It is.
The testimony behind the test.
I know, it gotta be a test.
It's gotta be a test.
Yeah.
And so, again, I am just grateful that God has given me all the pieces that I need to stand strong in the face of all the different things. And I, what you just said about, you it's hard to believe you can do it. That's
hard when you in it.
I wish that more, young people had the confidence to know yeah, I'm right here in this place right now, but I don't have to stay here.
Right.
I'm not a tree planted by the river. I can move.
You can move.
And
you can go where you need to be watered if you need to. You do not have to stay there.
Not have to stay there.
If someone's sitting there and they may be in the line with a link or wick, and they have real true desires to be in leadership and be a CEO, what are 3 things you would tell them?
You know what? You do have to trust yourself. Trust yourself. Understand and kind of know what you want. Because my husband would always challenge me on, what do you want? And I say, I want to be a CEO. What does that mean? What does it mean? I want to run an organization. That's what I want to do. And so trust yourself. Know, figure out what you want and then, make that path to it. You do have to take care of yourself, and I'm preaching to the choir because I don't do that enough. But, also understanding your resilience and your strength. Having some kind of spiritual background and you have to have something that you believe in and that keeps you grounded. So, having that spiritual, that groundedness, knowing where you want to go, and then just having the faith and trusting yourself that you can get there.
Love it. Well, Miranda Walker Jones, you are a Black Boss Lady.
And your legacy will live on the Black Boss Lady Platform podcast.
Thank you for joining us on the BBL Platform podcast, the place where legacies live. We hope you will join us on our next inspirational journey to success. Be sure to rate, like, and subscribe to our show. For more information, please visit our website at theBBLplatform.com.